Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rewind and Replay. I'm Matan.
I'm Adriana.
And I'm Caitlin.
And today we are joined by Matthew and Cody from the PRHP podcast. Or wait, P is podcast. The PRH podcast.
Yeah.
Punk rock horror podcast. For sure.
To talk about video games inspired by horror movies. Now, these are not all going to be like direct. We do have a couple direct adaptations like Friday the 13th, but a lot of them are inspired in tone, in visual style, in presentation. Let's get to it.
Hi.
Well, first, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody, like, we were excited and happy to be here, so thank you.
And I'm super excited to talk nerd.
Yeah.
I'll mention this again at the end of the podcast, but we're going to be on an episode of their show, and we're going to link it below, so you can go check that out as well.
Yeah,
Done right.
Of your podcast, what y'all do?
Of course, we'd love to. So, we run and host the Punk Rock Horror podcast. We started in 2017 with the love of B horror movies and the indie horror genre. We wanted to make a podcast that focuses on this realm and also just talks about the history behind horror in general and the subgenres that reside within it. Along with that, we review and make the case for horror movies that were either overlooked or didn't get enough attention. You're actually going to be joining us to talk about witches in horror.
Witches part 2.
So, yeah, and when we talked about that the first time, we reviewed the movies The Craft and They're Watching and made the case for why they need a lot of love and why a lot more attention, a little more respect as well. And that's what we do. We love horror. We breathe it. We grew up on it. And we just want to share that love and that knowledge with any other horror fan or any non-horror fan who's willing to listen.
Yeah. And then we also interview punk bands, indie and horror writers, authors, directors, actors, anything that pretty much has to do with horror and punk rock and metal.
Yeah, we pretty much became a very much need to know horror variety show.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Maybe this is too hard a question. Does each of you have one favorite horror movie?
Oh my
It's actually a
God.
very easy question.
Let's hear it.
Mine is Evil Dead 2. I love that movie. I love it so much that I have it tattooed all over my left forearm.
Nice.
Like it is my favorite. It is like my favorite underdog story that ever came to be. I love the living shit out of Evil Dead 2. It is probably the thing that I'm going to play the rest of my life every single year.
Fantastic. Mine, I was able to cover it on the podcast actually, is Grave Encounters. That's probably my favorite horror movie of all time. Is the first one to finally get me into jump scares again. Like, it actually scared me for once. And I just love the fact that it bashes on Zach Baggins and the entire like ghost hunting thing.
Yeah.
And it's also really cool because it kind of ties into like an inspiration for one of the games that I want to talk about today.
Ooh, well, why don't we start with that? We can start with that.
Yeah, for sure. So the cool thing about Grave Encounters is it all takes place in an insane asylum, and it's about these quote unquote ghost hunters recording everything in this haunted insane asylum, and like they're supposed to be like they're staging it. Like, it shows everything in the beginning where they're like bribing people, and then also like they go call in the medium, and the dude like comes up, and at one point he's like, I feel there's a dark presence, and the Zach Baggins dude's like, shut the fuck up, you're not even a real medium. And so it all takes place in this insane asylum. Once the hauntings start happening, it goes all crazy. And so the reason why I know it's a little bit of inspiration for one of my favorite games, Outlast. So Outlast takes place in an insane asylum. You play as a journalist, and it's all first person, and you're documenting everything of what's wrong with this insane asylum, why it might be haunted, why like all the inmates are still running it and killing people. And like, the one thing that I really love about Outlast, I don't know if you guys have played it, is that there's no combat. You're running, you're playing hide and seek with all these inmates in this asylum, and like, it's so good. And you have a battery, like you actually have batteries in your camera.
Yeah.
It's only lasts for so long, and you have to try and find more batteries, and you're just like pooping your pants the entire time. So.
And you can totally. Another thing I love about that is often the camera has a UV mode. Is that it? Where you can see in the dark?
Oh, night vision.
Yeah.
Night vision.
The night vision, yeah.
The only way you can see in the dark. And you have to manage your batteries. So very often you're just walking in the dark and you can't see shit. And you're like, don't want to waste my battery right now.
Yeah, and you'll hear like a little creak in the background. You're like, oh my god, no.
And what's so brilliant about Outlast, which should be obvious too to anyone who plays it, is the vulnerability factor it puts you in. So I mean, whenever you want to see a horror movie and we go to see movies to try to scare us, we want to feel that vulnerability. We're not realizing the fact that that's what's happening. You know, we want to feel vulnerable to get scared. You got to be vulnerable to get scared. And what best way to do that than doing it first person and not give you the ability to fight, but to only run? I mean, what is it? The DLC in the first one?
The whistleblowers.
The whistleblower. Yeah, that one gave me anxiety issues.
Yeah, they just want
As
to
most
cut
horror
off
games
everything.
do.
I know a lot of people, I've watched playthroughs of both 1 and 2. A lot of people prefer the second one to the first one. Did you guys play the second one?
I haven't played it, but I've seen a lot of gameplay for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I played the second one, and I always actually hear the opposite. More people like the first one over the second one, because the second one gets more, it goes more grotesque, because it takes on, it kind of draws its inspirations more along the lines of the cult movies and the occults, and especially kind of the Village and Children of the Corn in an essence.
Yeah.
Like with a little dabbling of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but instead it's the entire town instead of just the one farmhouse.
Right. Yeah, like it totally capitalizes on like the backwoods type of horror.
Yeah, and the only thing that they added in that I know that was a lot of people liked was you can kind of fight back a little bit.
You can like make your getaway easier.
Yeah, you can push him now. You can kind of, I think you can like push things in front, like behind you and stuff, so you can actually leg it.
I can see why that's really appealing for a lot of gamers, because even with like The Last of Us, that's something people really don't like, is like stealthing.
Yeah,
I love it. I like it.
I loved stealthing in less. So I haven't played Outlast 2 because it terrifies me too much that I don't want to play it. Like I get it. And it's funny though, because like I will watch anything that you want me to watch. I will read anything terrifying you want me to watch, and nothing gets me. But video games for some reason gets me. Like even Dead Space, still the first Dead Space still gets me hardcore.
So good.
And I love Dead Space. It's probably one of the coolest alien lores that we've ever had in a long time.
Also, I'd like to point out today it took us less than 7 minutes to talk about The Last of Us.
Yeah, we have. I don't think we've made a
Breaking
single
record.
episode without.
I don't think we've made it 10 minutes without talking about The Last of Us.
I haven't played the second one. Have you guys? Has anyone played the second one?
We have
here?
thoughts. We have a whole episode.
So
we
good.
fight.
A friend of mine was a level designer, and we got him on our. I think it was only our 3rd episode.
Oh, nice.
Yes, but about Outlast, I think, and about horror games in general, I think one of the reasons that horror games to me often feel very different than horror movies is just the element of agency of like it is very immersive. Those games are very immersive because you like feel terror, you feel terror for that character. To me, that is one of the time horror games are some of the games in which I put myself in their shoes the most. Where I have like a very visceral reaction to being chased there. When it's like, no, I know consciously it's a digital character, and I know it's third person usually. I'm like watching this character, but I really do feel the terror.
It's still your actions that are going to determine if this character like lives or dies. Especially in voice-based games.
I would even say it's more tense though, because it's like if you're watching a horror movie, like obviously you're gonna tell someone, don't go down that hallway or don't go into that room. Whereas in a video game, you're kind of required to make them go down that hallway.
I have to see behind the door because I need that key.
Yep.
BioShock, where it makes you do that a lot.
So speaking of choice-based games, like they're just so terrifying when it comes to playing. Like Until Dawn was so scary because all the choices you have to make, and like your choices determine whether characters live or die. And to me, that was so terrifying because it was like you were saying with like when you have to in a horror movie, you can just watch someone walk down a hall and be like, no, don't go down there. But you have to make these choices. And in Until Dawn, there's always that doubt of like, is this the right choice or not?
Totally. Like, is it gonna kill me now or is it gonna kill someone else later?
Exactly.
There's too much questions to it. And like when I watch horror movies, I will shit talk everyone in the movie. I'm like, you're an idiot, don't do that. Like, what the fuck? It's like that's not how ghost works.
Hold on.
Do you have what's a movie?
You're the idiot.
Or the idiot. Yeah, but like even when I was playing Until Dawn, I was like, well, if I like make this decision, like maybe like I'll be able to like win at the end and not like, end up killing everyone. But like
there was one part in Until Dawn that we played a lot, and we did not take it as serious as we should have. But it's like earlier on in the game, and I think it's when you get like the first or second totem, and it shows the scene of
the slasher dude punching the chick in the face,
just coming out of like the dark and just like square hitting her in the face.
Yeah. We could not. Only thing so one, we were all fairly drunk. Two, me and Matt were also playing Black Ops 3 COD Zombies because they actually made a campaign for it in that game, and I was super excited about that. And so we were just kind of like semi looking at our friends who were playing Until Dawn while we were doing that. And the second we saw that, the first thing me and Matt do is just throw our controllers in the air and go, John Cena!
Yeah. And so we just played it like back over and over, just like, oh my God, tonight on WWE Monday Night Raw. It's the most realistic match we've ever seen, and it's John Cena.
It just
John Cena with the right hook.
It's good to have with a game that's so dark,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, when there's scenes of like what people getting their eyes gouged out, like it shows the whole thing. Like you gotta find those moments in games like that where you can actually make fun of it, so it doesn't be utterly terrifying.
Right. Oh no! Look, I saw the blood pack in there.
Yeah. Until Dawn is, to me, one of the games most clearly derived from like classic horror. Caitlin, you've played a lot of. Have you played it multiple times? Okay, so you probably know this game better than I do. Like, what do you? I mean, when did this game come out?
2015.
Yeah, 2015-ish.
Maybe around there.
And you're also most educated of the three of us, at least.
It was near the beginning of the PS4 cycle. Sorry.
What do you? You're all good. What do you? So how do you think this game derives from horror film?
Oh, so I mean, it just takes a lot of inspiration from lots of horror movies. That was very general, but I mean, it's clearly the cabin in the woods. Group of teenagers goes up to this cabin and they are alone, stuck here, just them, and then people start to die. It is the very stereotypical classic. I mean, it's very much like the movie Cabin in the Woods, where it's like off of what we already know about horror movies and using that against us. And I think that's really awesome because then we see all this stuff about like the Psycho and Josh, and it uses like what we think against us. And I think that's really cool because we have so many assumptions about all the characters already. And then like just the moment when you find out the Wendigos are like a thing is such like a revealing moment, and it's so cool.
It really, you're totally right. It uses character tropes and archetypes of the tropes of the genre against us, and I think that's very, very smart.
Yeah. And one thing, I just rewatched Scream the other night. I don't know if Josh is based off of like specifically Stu was who I really like. When I was watching that movie, I was like, Stu is literally Josh. Like they are the same person. And like I don't know if any of you have seen Scream.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Definitely. I figured you two had. It's more Adriana Matana. I wasn't sure.
Not you two, not the horror nerds. We're talking to you.
But no, like he's just so much, and like I saw you guys nodding, so I'm guessing you also see that similarity, like that crazy, like just losing his shit, especially right at the end. Like some of the stuff Stu was saying at the end is like exactly what Josh says.
That's so weird.
I was like, I tried to look it up. I didn't see anything like hard proof that like Josh is based off of Stu, but it feels so much like he is.
Well, I was gonna say, because I'm into like the context of games and like creative directors and intentions and stuff like that. So I know that the creative director for Until Dawn, like he did an interview with PlayStation, like the blog that they have, and he listed like I think 8 or 10 movies that really inspired him when he was making that, and he didn't mention Scream at all. So maybe he just didn't think about it, but that feels impossible.
It could be a Rami Malek thing. It could be a tweet he made.
Yeah.
He watched Scream and he was like, I want to, like, this character seems like Stu. I don't know. But it just felt very similar. And maybe I'm just looking too much into it, or they're just similar characters and there's no connection. But it's just.
Well, I would actually agree with you. I think you're I think you're pretty on point with it. I mean, Until Dawn is very much so inspired by a lot of horror. I mean, on one end, obviously, inspired by Cabin in the Woods, that type of horror, even Evil Dead in some aspect. But when you look at like some of the other like challenges that you have to overcome, it's very inspired by like stuff from like Hostel or Saw. And I think a lot of times people like, for one of the coolest things about that game that I think people don't talk enough about is the in between of events when you're having to talk to Peter Stormare's character in that office, and he's trying to figure out your psychology. That's kind of a very like morbidly violating fun thing to go through, because like it feels violating. It's not doing anything violating to you, but it feels like violating. But more coming back to Stu is just really quick. I want to agree, because Stu, his character's alignment is one we see in a lot of classic slasher horror in general. And so I would agree that I could see that with Rami Malek's character.
See, I got the violation from the interview, like your interview sections was Peter Stormare, because it's supposed to be the after effect, right? Because like his whole thing's supposed to be taking place after the game takes place, all the events. So it's supposed to be, I got the feeling of like, that's what the person who's the final girl, that's why you feel violated a little bit, because it's supposed to be like the final girl, what she does after all the events, you know? So she's the one who's like having to explain all these things, why she feels these ways, and she feels violated because no one's gonna believe that fucking Wendigo's ate her sister. So like that's what I got from that. But going back to Rami Malek's character, I honestly got more of a vibe of grown up Kevin McAllister. Because like, you know, they did all the types of traps and stuff like that. And then also like he planned everything out. He owned the place. It was his cabin, his family's cabin and whatnot. So he knew the layout, just like Kevin McAllister learned from his like past, like his house when they did all the Wet Bandit stuff. But he's older, and that's why he gets manic, because he finally lost in the end. While, you know, Kevin McAllister never truly loses. He always has like an ace up his sleeve and wins in the end. But he didn't in the game. So I think that's where the vibe that I got.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I see that. That's really interesting.
I think we can just assume then in Saw, the main guy is just
Jigsaw.
Jigsaw is grumpy Kevin McAllister.
Is grumpy Kevin McAllister. That's headcanon.
He's tired of the world and he's taking it out on evereverone around him.
I will agree with that fan theory till I die. I think it's the best thing ever.
I love that so much.
There's memes about like, you know, who would win, Kevin McAllister with infinite prep time or Batman with infinite prep time. No one can agree.
I'd say Batman, because I still want to think that a grown 6'1", you know, fully muscled man can walk in and punch the kid, but I don't know.
I say Kevin.
Next level.
And then I just kind of like said I want to see a 6'1" man punch a kid. So
somebody clip that. Next up, we've got a very famous horror game classic, Slenderman. This game is spooky. This game was huge when it came out. This game very much, I like this note here, very much is inspired by Blair Witch Project, which was kind of the beginning of like found footage. Not the beginning, but really the its rise to prominence of found footage genre. And you know, Slenderman's a pretty simple game. You run around in this forest and you find a couple notes, but the moment when you turn around and see him is horrifying. And I love the way he just stands there, and then I love the way it gets all staticky when he's approaching. It's, you know, to me, a very simple, clean, solid like horror game.
Oh yeah.
And also talk about like an actual game that like shook culture and society,
right?
You know, in the most unexpected, in some ways, sad ways as well. I mean, I don't want to touch on that as much, and I don't want to take it away from anyone else that wants to talk about it. But
like you got so sad there.
I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
Like so melancholy. I really don't want to talk about it. But if
I
anybody else wants to,
I apologize. Slenderman.
I mean,
guys.
let's just address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, it did cause a terrible crime to happen. There were 2 young girls who decided to go, and they believed Slenderman was real and was telling them to kill their friend. So they went and stabbed their friend. She did survive, so that was great that she did. It was still a horrible thing, and then people went and capitalized off of it by making a movie, which is terrible. It's kind of made Slenderman like such a weird thing to look back on, and like still like, because it's still a thing, but it's still so weird because this whole thing happened. And it's like, I mean, if you say Slenderman, everyone thinks of this case, everyone knows about it, so it's just become such a weird thing to touch on.
Yeah, and I agree. And the one thing that I think is like why it's weird, the only logical thing for me, it's not the fact that it happened because like it happened with kids or anything that did it, because there's all kinds of murders that are inspired by horror movies and games that kids carry out and whatnot. But I mean, shit, Mortal Kombat, there's kids punching each other in the face all the time, like, you know. But when it comes to Slenderman, I think the reason why like it has that stigma on it now is mostly because of the time period, like the timing. Slenderman's still new. He literally like has a birth date and a creation date and everything. Like it's September or not September, but it's 2009. He literally just popped up like from a contest, and then within a short amount of time, these kids, you know, did this atrocity because and saying it's in the name of Slenderman. I think it's just because he's new, and so that's why like there's such the stigma on him, because Slenderman's such a great like monster. He's this great internet monster and a great video game monster, and makes like all like really amps up horror, but it just sucks he has this stigma.
He's the modern boogeyman.
And then also to add on, like what you said, they made a terrible movie that had some inspirations from the real case, and the whole family was like, what the fuck?
And then they also came out with like sequels straight to consoles.
They were so
expanding on them even more. I mean, talk about a poor taste in action in a poor time, you know, with a lot of poor events happening all at the same time. And but I still think that the game itself, the very original, still deserves its nod, despite the fact it has such a negative stigma and happenings attached to it, sadly. Just because it's like we said, Matan, it was a very basic, you know, game. It was straight to the point, and it did what it needed to. And
everyone was terrified.
Well, yeah, it's just, you know, that's what we want.
Well, and when you go into the science of it too, just for like a quick moment, what it does, it does the haunted house effect on you, which is, you know, when you turn around and you see it, it's like flashing lights, loud sound, and it tricks your senses in your ear, and that makes you want to just kind of shriek, and it surprises you. Like, it's a natural thing that happens. That's why in haunted houses, whenever you walk through and they slam on walls, or they you know, will play anything that's just a high, quick, loud screech, they do that because it tricks your actual ears, and it actually makes you jump. And I thought that was brilliant to do that in a game, in a very indie game.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the other reasons it became so like scary and so real was because it felt so real. Like, I remember, you said it came out in 2009, like the whole Slenderman thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I was 10 at the time. We're young.
Oh my God, I'm old.
I'm sorry.
Like, I just graduated high school.
Our mentality is forever at 7. So
I was 10 years old when the whole Slenderman thing started. I remember like being at school and people like claiming it was real, because when it first came out, it was just like, it was on Creepypasta, and there was a story about like how real it was. And like, when you're like 10, you don't really know if it's real or not. You know, you believe that stuff. So I remember people being like, oh my God, Slenderman's going to kill us. Like, oh, I saw that photo of you. Slenderman was in that photo with you. And like,
right.
Like that. So it was so terrifying because it felt so real. And you're at that age where like, you don't really know, like anything could be real. You're just like going based off of what other people tell you. And like, you're still trying to figure out life and like what things are. And so I just remember being so terrified by this. And like, then the game came out. I was like, oh my God, there's a game now. It was
Do you remember when you learned like other important like horror mythos? I assume when you were like young, like Bloody Mary or something. Like,
oh
what
yeah.
was that, like, thing for you? Was like
La Llorona,
Yeah,
Bloody
Yeah.
Bloody
Mary,
Mary, Baba Yaga.
Yeah, Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga was mine.
Krampus, technically.
Krampus. I fucking love
Bloody
Krampus.
Mary was the scary one for me. I
Mhm.
think probably because I went to Catholic school for like a really long time.
Oh, nice.
So like I'm into that shit.
It's interesting about the whole Bloody Mary too, because it's just because of how it's like taken effect in different cultures and how it's been changed around. I think it's really interesting, but it's also interesting when, as you get older, you get to a point where you go to a bar and you get more excited hearing about a Bloody Mary than you would when you were a kid.
Did y'all ever do Bloody Mary? Like go into the bathroom, say
No,
Oh,
Caitlin.
yeah.
No, we don't summon evil spirits, Caitlin. Sorry,
Adriana's over here saying, no, what is wrong with you? I'm like, yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
I
why
know.
when I was little, anytime I don't know if this happened to you guys, when you would have to take out the trash, like to the dumpster or whatever, you'd go take out the trash, you throw it in the dumpster, and you turn around, and you're like, there's something in the dumpster that's about to jump at me. And you start running a little quicker, like you walk quicker and quicker and just sprint at the end. I'd always do that. And I'm just like, it's Bloody Mary. Like, it's either that or a zombie. Like, they're going to eat me.
I was so scared of it that I would do the Bloody Mary, right? I would do the challenge, and I would usually do it with other people, and I would wait till we get to the second Bloody Mary, and I go Bloody Mary, and then the third, and go, and I just like close my eyes, thinking that would protect me, but like you can't hurt me if I can't see you.
me and my friends would do it, and then we would like try to scare each other. So we'd like listen, and then like on the third Bloody Mary, we'd start like hitting the door, or, like turn the lights off. Well, you already were supposed to have the lights turned off, but like we'd lock the door, or, like, you know, go hide in the house and turn all the lights off so they couldn't find us.
Ooh,
Okay,
that's funny.
so my beef here though is that Caitlin, you're still actively like trying to get possessed.
Oh yeah.
And
Let someone else have a chance at this.
Yeah.
okay?
I mean, it still hasn't happened to me, so.
And then after it does, you're like, yeah, well, that wasn't fun.
Traditionally, in horror movies, after this recording is when it would start to happen.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Now that we brought it up, now Caitlin's going to get possessed.
I've never said I wanted to get possessed. I've said I've wanted to get haunted. Possessed is the wrong word.
Okay,
Okay.
that's true. That's fair.
Yeah,
But also, you know, you have a technology curse that
She
could
does have a
very
curse.
well be a haunting. Is all
It's
I'm
the
putting
ghost
out
of Steve
there.
Jobs.
It is
You got the worst of the haunting roulette wheel. You got the dirtiest one. Everybody else usually gets thrown plates across the room.
Yeah.
Oh man, shoddy Wi-Fi.
yeah.
Yeah.
My ghost is like, haha, today your phone is 10% slower.
Yeah.
Oh, beware!
Today, you're only going to get every other text notification.
I'm sending all your important emails to the spam box.
Yeah.
With
So-
just adding on with the whole like possession, haunting, and technology based.
Oh,
Wow. Hey, the ghost moved. The ghost didn't like we were talking shit.
Said you talking shit? It just went from my Zoom to their Zoom. Oh.
Oh, yikes. Hey, okay, Caitlin, like, I know this is like a coincidence or whatever, but that was one strong coincidence
really
is all I'm
funny.
going to put out there, okay?
yeah. Yeah.
There we are.
Tell me there's no technology ghost haunting Caitlin. Tell me it did not just go through her Zoom into yours.
Honestly, not as terrifying. It's
timing.
mostly inconvenient.
I kind of want to keep that in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, keep that
I'm
in.
gonna keep
That
that
was brilliantly
Definitely.
timed.
in. All right, but I'm sorry. Does anybody have any last thoughts on Slender before we move to the next one?
Don't kill
Okay.
your friends because
Cool.
Slenderman tells you to.
Don't kill your friends. Hot take: don't kill your
Hot
friends.
take.
Um,
Don't kill your friends.
Fiction is
All right.
fiction. It doesn't need to be real.
So now, let's move on to another very famous series, the Alien series. The two most
Yeah.
prominent games from which I think are one, Alien Isolation, and two, Alien versus Predator.
I would agree.
What do you think about Alien versus Predator, you guys?
So I love Alien versus Predator, and I'm talking about the remake when it came out like on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, not the original from way back. I think it was like what, the 80s or early 90s.
So there's Alien versus Predator Arcade, where you
Yeah.
play as the Predators or several humans,
Right,
which
right.
is one of the most underrated beat 'em ups, and I don't know why they never made a port to it to actual consoles or anything. Fuck you, rights. And then there's Alien versus Predator on the PS2, which I played the ever living shit out of. It is an RTS, so kind of like Command and Conquer, but you get to choose between your alien or predator or humans. And then you have the Alien versus Predator Game Boy game. And then you also have, which I loved to death. He plays the Predator, and it's such shitty graphics, and you like predator people with your claws. You don't stab them, you just predator.
Yeah, right. Fist
then,
pump.
Yep. And then you have the AVP on the Xbox 360 and PS3.
Yeah, that was my favorite because
Nerd.
I mean, obviously you can play as like what Cody said, like the alien he plays Alien, Predator, or the Human Colonial Marines, which gonna say that's the least fun one out of that game.
Yeah,
but
no one wants to be a human being in a monster game.
Exactly.
He's just gonna lose.
Well, it was cool though, because like, so if you played as the alien, like you had the ability to wall crawl and sneak around, and like if you executed people, like it did the whole cinematic of you like even bringing up the tail and like shoving it through a dude's face. And so like they really like went over the top with it, and I appreciate the hell out of it. And then you can play as like Predator, right? But instead, like, of having stealth, you get like basically you become Batman and get like all these cool gadgets you get to use. You get to blow up dudes, you get to cut off people's heads, you get to do basically all the stuff in the Predator movie you get to do.
My favorite was always the disc.
And it was just over the top bloody carnage, and it's like the Alien and Predator games we always wanted, and they only ever made like it, even though they didn't make only one of it, that feels like the pinnacle to me. Like that was what it should be, and if they could just do that again and maybe leave out the Colonial Marine part, I would be like, I would pre-order instantly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would agree. Like, there's a reason both the games and the movies, and even for people who like only are into one, either the games or the movies, like they're both so popular on their own too.
Well, and they're just cool looking monsters. I mean, really, looking at Predator Alien, they're
crab
just
face versus penis head. like
well, when you put it like that.
Well, okay. Did you ever actually research the things about Aliens, the movie Alien franchise?
Yeah, I've researched.
Yeah,
it.
it's all. That's why they look like that.
I get it. Doesn't help.
The reason he's phallic.
Thanks. Now I regret this.
The xenomorph design.
Hop off from here.
Did anybody here play Alien Isolation?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that game is fucking fantastic.
Yeah, the only thing that I know from that game is thanks to one of our other horror game aficionados, one of our friends, Albert Rabideau. He has like a whole like video essay on it. It's super cool. But what I like most about the game is that like the environmental design team limited what they were doing to what would have been possible in 1979, and I love that. Like having a sense of authenticity in a game is so important to make you vulnerable. Like especially in a horror game, like you want to believe everything that's happening.
Oh yeah, especially if it's as popular a franchise as Alien. Like you can't say, yeah, this is going to be an Alien game set in the Alien universe, but we're going to change everything. It's like, no, you got to have the aesthetic of the entire movie franchise and everything to actually get that feel.
And that's sorry, go ahead, man.
I was say, and I also like the fact that I love that they borrowed a little bit from the Outlast series in the sense of like you're going to do the cat and mouse thing. And then they also throw in, we're going to take inspiration of Left 4 Dead and throw in a learning AI that learns from your movements and how good you're doing. And it's just going to hunt you down. And like, just like in Left 4 Dead with the rogue AI system that it has in there, where the hordes are never the same. The zombies are never put in the same spot. You might run into a witch. You might run into 10. You don't know. And that's what I liked about Alien Isolation, because it always gives you that replay value, because it's never going to be the same way. Even though the story is, the alien is never going to be the same. And it makes that so authentic. It's so scary.
Speaking of which, unless somebody has some final thoughts, I was going to say, let's talk about Left 4 Dead.
Another big one.
Yeah.
Another very big one. It is just recently, Left 4 Dead 2 11 years old, just got an update.
Yeah.
Um,
Right?
I think that's awesome.
this game is still, people still, it's not like its heyday, but people still love this game. It's, for those who don't know, it's a 4-player like co-op shooter. Basically, you have objectives and you run through like waves and hordes of zombies. Intense. I mean, the different zombie types are very cool in this game. I don't remember all their names, but it's
Boomer,
Tank,
tank,
Hunter,
spitter, choker. No, smoker. It's a smoker.
Smoker.
Not a choker.
That's right.
or a
Smoker.
midnight toker. Sorry.
Yeah.
We love the Left 4 Dead.
We played
franchise.
so much of Left 4 Dead 2.
You want to know how much I love Left 4 Dead 2? Enough that I went through 5 copies of it at least.
Wow.
I went back and bought a 360 just so I could play it again.
Yeah.
Dedication.
I think it's kind of it's what you were already talked about with like Slenderman. It was a simple game that capitalized on what made it good. Frenetic first-person team co-op shooting, and totally inspired like by Romero and all the like Night of the Dead, Living Dead type of video game movies, not video games. And I mean, even the first level in Left 4 Dead 2, where you end up having to survive in a mall, like pure out of Dawn of the Dead. Like if you can't realize that reference after seeing Dawn of the Dead, you need to watch Dawn of the Dead again. Period. Simple.
Both of them.
The original and the remake.
Yeah, it's I am a big fan of multiplayer co-op games.
Yeah.
I like playing with people together. And so I think this one, it's fun, like a nice PvE horrifying game is hard to come by, and it's a very solid one.
I think it's interesting that it got an update, and like right now, like it and like Among Us are really popular.
True.
And I saw this on Twitter. I don't remember their handle, but this is not my original thought, but someone on the internet compared that at the beginning of quarantine, we were all playing Animal Crossing, where you're happy and peaceful, and now we're killing each other in horror games.
It's because we all know where the mentality of our state is.
But argument of pro for video games in that case, it's better that everybody has an outlet like that instead of actually committing real things in real life.
Yeah.
It was Twitter user at MeowDoos. I know this because I sent this. I got you.
I think it's funny. We won't talk about this for long, but just a quick mention to Among Us, very clearly inspired by John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah,
100%. I mean, come on.
Which is also a fantastic video game.
Yes.
The Thing that came out on the PS2.
I didn't know there was a Thing video game.
Oh, you did? Yeah, it's okay. So it is canon, and it proves who is actually the Thing at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil it.
That's a cool tie-in to the movie.
And it's really, really, really good. It's like laid the groundwork for the Resident Evil 4 style third-person survival horror, where it's a little bit more action-based. And they do this great thing in the game where there's a sanity system. So this is even before, what was it called?
Amnesia?
No, not Amnesia. It's on the GameCube.
Eternal Darkness.
Yeah, Eternal Darkness. So it had a sanity system before then.
Cool.
And so how it started is your sanity system is also your trust system. So whoever you pick to play as, you have to interact with your squad and do things so either they're going to trust you more or they're going to hate on you more. And you have to figure out who's the thing in your squad before you have like the big climactic battle at the end. And then you figure out who from the movie actually is the alien at the end. It's really good.
It definitely got overlooked, and I think part of the reason.
For sure.
Well, I think
it's a
it
movie
came out during
tie-in
the time.
game.
Yeah, when they did a lot of movie tie-ins at the time, and I think a lot of people, and especially just in the horror community in general, whenever there's a new iteration on a beloved franchise, regardless of the medium, there's always like a boatload of skepticism, no matter what. And not saying it isn't warranted. A lot of times it totally is, but it's just a shame that the video game did not get as much attention.
That is a shame.
And I wanted to also say I'm a little bitter about the Left 4 Dead 2 recent update only reason is because I've been on the boat of a Left 4 Dead 3 for so long, and when they came out with the update, I know it wasn't meant as it, but it felt like a slap. I know it wasn't a slap,
but I'm telling you, it's Valve. They cannot count to 3.
I guess
it's going to be update 2, then update 4.0,
right?
And then they release Left 4 Dead.
Just like Gabe Newell with like the whole development team and just in a meeting, just like looking at a 2 and then like a question mark with an arrow pointing to it, like what comes after?
Yes,
we've been trying to solve this for years.
2.8
number.
Gabe is too busy.
Up to 2.9. What is next?
Gabe is too busy wiping his ass with $100 bills.
It's all those Steam sales.
Bill?
I bet if we all stopped buying into those Steam sales, they would come out with the 3rd iterations.
So speaking of zombies, this one is a favorite I know of the 3 of us, and that is the Walking Dead Telltale series. Have you guys have you two played these games?
Yes, and I don't have the heart to finish them.
Oh,
I'm too
that's fair.
I don't want it. I don't want to see what happens. Also, one, because I didn't get to it in time and it was already spoiled for me in the early on, not like the current most recent game, but like what happens. I'm trying to not spoil it for anyone else. But
what happens to Lee?
Yeah, basically. That got spoiled for me.
Man.
That really rubbed me the wrong way. So whenever anything gets spoiled for me, it takes me a moment for me to get back into something too. But otherwise, I was just like, I don't want anything to die.
But it's a horror game. It's
I know.
Has to happen.
But I can't live with the consequences.
It's zombies. They have to.
Someone major has to die to keep the game going.
Right. Caitlin, Adriana, you watched it, and Caitlin, you played it. Is that right?
I have played, I think, the second one. I have for my PS3.
Okay, yeah. Would you? I mean, my little anecdote is before I played this game, I still am very, very afraid of zombies. Zombies wig me out. And I had a friend who had watched a playthrough, and he was like, "Dude, these games are incredible. You're gonna love them." And I was like, "No fucking way am I gonna love these games. They're zombie. I don't do zombies, man."
You do now.
And he was like, "No, here, I promise you." He basically had to keep telling me every day at school. This was in middle school, and he was like, "All right."
Middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school.
I was in 8th grade when I played this game, and so he was like, "Hey,
I'm so old.
these games are in episodes. You're gonna play the first episode. It's 2 hours." And if you don't like it, we'll stop. I was like, all right, fine. I'll play the first episode. And by the end of the first episode, I was like, what's going to happen to Clem? And
Ducky.
Do you, Caitlin and Adriana, how do you guys feel about the subsequent seasons, 2, 3, and 4? I'm sorry. And did you guys play? I know Matthew, you said you did not finish.
No, eventually one day I will, once I regain the heart to follow through with my choices.
Did you just finish season 1, or did you?
Where'd you get?
Yeah, I finished season 1, and I think I got like almost. I think I was about halfway in season 2.
Okay.
And I was just like, I need to go watch Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey, something uplifting a little bit.
So, yeah. Caitlin and Adriana, did you guys finish the games, watching or playing?
Yes,
I did.
The entire.
I enjoyed them. When I first got into The Walking Dead, I started playing / watching the games because I was watching the TV show, and I stopped watching the goddamn TV show because it's just not as good as the games. Like, it just lost its appeal.
Yeah.
I wanted to really keep loving it, and it was like really good the first like 2 seasons, and then
they could have saved it with Negan.
Yeah, when Negan came in.
Oh no!
I wanted to love Negan so much.
And in the comics, he was better. I
know.
Oh, God,
Negan's fucking brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The comics too were part of the reason why I kept watching.
Yeah.
Even the governor in the comics is better.
I have read all of the comics, and
I like the governor better in the TV show than the comics. He was just better rounded out.
Yeah,
I thought he was a more rounded out person.
Yeah.
Like you kind of got him more. You got his actual why he was such a mental nutcase a little bit more instead. Just that's my daughter. Like, like we got more into it because in the comics, like I was so disappointed that he got his ass handed to him in the beginning of the comics, even though he fucks Rick up, but he still like gets his ass whipped and then he comes back. Like in the show, they really fleshed out how more of a like nutcase and mental like abuser he was, an emotional abuser he was, unlike the comics. So
Okay.
that's my thing.
Okay.
But everything else
Fair
in the
enough.
comics is better. Negan is 20 times better in the comics.
So much better.
Even though Jeffrey Dean Morgan was
Negan.
like perfect.
Yeah, I think the last season I've seen is when like the end of Negan stuff, and then like the Whisperer started coming in, and then
Yeah.
the whole thing with Rick happened.
Oh my god.
I stopped watching, and this makes me really sad. I stopped watching about when Kari Payton's character was introduced, the guy with like the tiger lion thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
When I kind of like dribbled off and
Which
caught
I
here
felt
and there.
so bad because like I love him as an actor,
Oh yeah.
but like I couldn't keep going with the show.
Did
Oh,
you guys?
the casting was solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Casting was fantastic. It's just the writing. Like each season, honestly, should have been like cut in half after like 4 or 5. Like only do a small amount of episodes. It would have been better.
I'm also.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, did you guys play the Walking Dead game, the Michonne miniseries?
I did not play that.
I have
I did.
not. No.
So it was good. It had its issues, but I liked
Yeah.
it.
I think we
wish it
talked
had-
about it before.
Okay. It was only 3 episodes, and I wish it had been 5, I think. But it's about Michonne in the time skip. Because the games share a universe with the comics.
Right.
So it takes place during the time skip. It's kind of where she is and what she's doing. And it was good. Michonne is one of my favorite characters in the Walking Dead series. And so it was nice to play as her a little bit and see what was going on with her in that time.
And that's my reason why I've gotten upset with the show, is because they have great characters, they have great cast, but because they keep recycling plot lines, it just like it keeps getting diluted every time they reintroduce it and try to make it somewhat different. And they don't really make it different, and it just makes it stale, and it makes me frustrated because like there's other like great horror shows that they had going on at the time, like Preacher, for example. Was fantastic, and I will argue was better than Walking Dead. Ended better. Like it didn't go on as long as it needed to. It's just a fantastic series. If you ever get the chance, check it
I've
out.
heard good things.
Hannibal also. You
Yeah.
should check out Hannibal. I'll never stop talking about that show. I fucking love that show.
It's not even on AMC, but we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah. It's on Netflix. So
Actually, yeah, I mean, I think at the end we should all give one recommendation, because I have one that I think everybody would like, and we're just about getting there. I wanted to add just some final thoughts on Walking Dead. I think it really does a good job of being scary and keeping high stakes while also like being emotional. Like it doesn't, with like some like tackier horror movies, it's really not about the emotion. It's really like playing things up, for scares and for it's intense, and it's not as much about the people, and that's okay. Like that fills a niche that I do enjoy sometimes. But Walking Dead really plays to the characters and plays to the emotion, and so that then when there's horror, you're not only reacting for you, you're also reacting for them.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite genre within horror, like subgenre, is like psychological horror, right? Like the torment that you go through as a player and a viewer, and like also that the characters go through.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, The Walking Dead, like the zombies are fucking creepy, but like one of the best things about zombie shows, in my opinion, is that the villains are not really the zombies most of the time. It's the people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, my main complaint with The Walking Dead is some of the choices just feel very empty because like they don't matter at the end, which like you said, the stakes are high, which like I do agree they are, especially in the 4th season. Like choices matter in the 4th season. But yeah, that would be like my biggest complaint, is like in the end, especially 1st season, like you have the choice to kill like, or not kill, but like save one of the 2 people, and then later like they end up getting killed, the one you don't save. So like it doesn't matter what you do, like You know what I'm talking about? It's like Carly
Yeah.
and Doug, I think. Sorry,
Yeah.
spoilers for the first season, but
They make you think it matters.
But
yeah, you think it matters, and like
I mean-
I think that's important. In the moment, you think it matters,
Yeah.
and the stakes are high in the moment.
that's the most important part. And I also think, I mean, there's some argument for, we could have a longer discussion about this.
Yeah.
But we should do a whole episode on Telltale. But
Sure.
I think the journey is different, even if not the ending. There are choices that just don't matter. There are choices where it's like one dialogue text differently and then it's the same. But like with Carly and Doug, like I got to know Carly in episode 3. You know, I got to spend more time with her.
That's true.
So then, so like even though again it ended in the same place, my journey was different. I also wanted to point out, I just realized I put up my Walking Dead. It can't really see it. My Walking Dead limited edition poster. There's
You
only
can't really
150
see
of
it.
these. They gave them to the Telltale staff. That's my flex.
Nice.
Yeah, solid flex.
Well, don't we feel a little more lame now?
Well,
I have a pumpkin that's crocheted.
is it a limited edition pumpkin, Adriana?
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
right.
My cousin's the only one that makes it. Haha.
My flex is I've met the guy who played. Oh man, it's my sister's favorite character, and he has only a few lines.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, what's
In the show? In the
yes,
game?
in the show. No, in the show. Oh no.
What are you thinking of?
Is it James Allen McCune? Is
No,
it the actor?
I'm sorry, I can't even think of the actor's name. I feel so bad.
What is the role he play?
I can't think of either of
Can
them.
you describe what he looks like?
What
a white
movie?
guy, balding, kind of older. Sorry. if you ever
Oh,
listened
is he in the
to it.
first season?
No.
Okay.
Not
Damn.
James Rucker.
All right. Well, you can post about it later because I
Yeah,
don't
you
know if
can
we're gonna
brag
figure
to
it
the
out.
internet.
Our biggest flex is we interviewed Anthony C. Fuentes.
Who's that?
He's the director of Sharknado.
Oh,
The
wow.
entire Sharknado series.
My lord, that's big.
We were
Yeah.
excited. I cried like a little girl because I was so excited. I love the Sharknado movies.
Yeah, Sharknado.
That was we can tell you about that one whenever you want as well, but that one was a really fun one. But I did want to just
Sounds great.
finish on what you were saying with Tan with Walking Dead and just what everybody's really saying honestly about how it balances the character arcs of it, you know, how it's character driven but the horror as well, because that's kind of part of the case we've always made with horror in general in our show, talking about the fact that horror gets a bad stigma only because, you know, people only look at like gory movies with like naked girls getting heads cut off and that's what people think of, and that's not the, although that is in horror and it's in, you know, it's a point in horror for whatever reason, it's not what makes horror great. And when you look at games like The Walking Dead, that's what we invest in, is being able to talk about stories, hard to talk about elements that motivations that characters you can't really get away with in like action movies and only drama really for the most part.
Sure.
But you get to see it in horror, and what helps is, you know, you could see a story about somebody even talking about something serious about losing, you know, a loved one in like a drunk driving accident, you know, for example, and they're being haunted by that in some way. But then you're coupled in with like scenery of like zombies, you know, it definitely kind of like helps break the speed in between, so it's not always as depressing, oddly enough, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of like veered off when you're talking about like, yeah, these like heartfelt moment scenes, and then you have zombies. So I was just kind of imagining like, oh Billy, I love you, blah, 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 like how zombies are starting to
That would be
run
the
up.
movie Fido.
All right, well,
I found it. It's
Oh,
Jason
wow.
Douglas who
Say it
played
again?
Tobin. Jason Douglas who played Tobin.
huh.
Oh no
Oh.
shit, Jason Douglas.
Jason Douglas, if you ever listen to this, I'm sorry I forgot your name.
Yikes.
I met
Come on
him
our
because he
podcast.
does a voice in Ruby, and he was at an anime convention that I went to.
Nice.
He's gonna stop listening and be like, you know what, I can't believe she forgot my
I
name.
know.
Caitlin is now public enemy number one.
Well, as we're wrapping up, I wanted to get one horror or horror related recommendation from everybody. So Cody, why don't you start? Cody and then Matthew, and then we'll go through.
Like game, movie,
Anything. It's just gotta be
Anything?
horror.
What are you currently into that's horror?
Oh,
What about Hannibal? You could
I already said Hannibal. I already said oh my god, I can't believe I just forgot what I already said. If you want some good horror and you want especially like good psychological thriller stuff too, I'm gonna kind of like mold this all into like 4 picks, but it's all around the same thing. You should play Evil Within, Evil Within 2, Deadly Premonition, and watch Twin Peaks, because they're all literally basically the same thing. Because Deadly Premonition is literally Twin Peaks the game, and then Evil Within 2 has all the Twin Peaks inspiration, especially in that first beginning level where you're walking through the red room and everything. I was like, hey, I know that one.
We were
and then the first one, I mean, you got the whole medieval factor. You have your Leatherface guy chasing you. You got your grudge-like girl who turns into a giant horrific spider woman. So I highly recommend all those. And you also get the virtual aspect, because the Evil Within is all virtual. So like it all relates to the whole like obsession with technology and everything, and how far are we willing to go to make to push the possibilities of technology and everything. And like, are we going to create this utopia where one little glitch turns us all into man-eating, face-eating zombies?
Yeah, and the technology ghost that is now also haunting you guys. Sorry.
Yes, that too. Yeah, no, when we were talking about that right before we got like cut out, I really wanted to talk about the Evil Within, because I was like, hey, we're talking about AI.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think Caitlin got cut off, but I know that's Evil Within, Evil Within 2 or something.
Yeah, I was just saying I love those. I second that recommendation. Those are like 2 of my favorite games.
Evil Within 2, chef's kiss.
So good. Some people say, like, I'm a huge fan of Evil Within 2. I think it's better than the first game. Some people are like, oh, only the first game. I love the second game so much.
They fixed the second game so much more. Like, you don't have to worry about burning the bodies, which totally takes you out of the immersion in the first one. Because, like, it's just like, oh, I did all this badass stealth killing, and now I have to burn them or they're going to kill me some more. Like, like, I could have did without it. Like, the remake of Resident Evil did it good with the Crimson Heads, but I feel like with the Evil Within 2, when they just like kind of took that out and just like really threw in the whole Cronenberg body horror monsters, like it really came into its own.
Totally. Matthew, you have one?
Yeah. So mine's can I throw in one what I think people shouldn't watch? No, I'm kidding.
Sure.
You want?
He's got a list.
I got 3 movies if you really want to go down that road, but I'll make that part really quick because I'd rather talk about the thing that people should check out. Just avoid The Nun, Eli, Sinister 2. Hasn't done anything for horror. Waste of time.
Especially
you were just talking about The Nun. Anyway,
I hated all of them for specific reasons. I gave them all legitimate try, and they all let me down. Eli especially has some of the worst loopholes I've seen in a horror movie in the longest time possible.
I can rant for so long about how terrible The Nun was. It was so bad.
It was rough. Like, thanks for giving us the lore about The Nun. Way to wrap it up in a shit pie.
That's how they. And then they ruined La Llorona.
Let's not even.
Dude, I'm so bitter about that. I was so excited
about it.
I love that tale.
But what I think you should watch, and I honestly, this is one series that I already kind of like mentioned it in this episode, but I think it's been horribly overlooked and hasn't got enough attention, especially considering who originally came up with the creation, is Preacher. They adapted it for AMC. I think it's all current seasons are on there. It's the final season's finally been released on Hulu. You can watch it all on Hulu. It is one of the funniest, goriest, tongue-in-cheek, horror-inspired takes on good versus evil in the longest time that I've ever seen. It is beyond unique. The casting is fantastic. The character interactions are fantastic. Seriously, totally. It's worth the investment. It's worth the time to just check it out and watch the series. And if you don't want to watch it, read the comics. Garth Ennis wrote them.
Garth Ennis is great. He wrote The Boys, for people who don't know.
The Boys, such
Garth Ennis has made a lot of things that a lot of people like that they don't realize how much he's been a part of.
The Punisher, he had a great run on The Punisher.
Yeah, Punisher as well. But Preacher, I feel like has not gotten enough attention. Totally deserves more love. Check it out.
I've heard
definitely check out the comics. Like, I have the entire series, and it's probably one of my favorite series. I read it at least one time through a year. It's fucking great.
All right, Adriana. What's your recommendation?
I'm just going to do shameless self-promotion for us. Check out the tabletop role-playing game, Brinkwood, where you take down a vampire hierarchy. You spill blood and you eat the rich. So
nice.
I love it.
We play that.
Yeah, we just played it. It's our most recent video.
And what's it called again?
Brinkwood, The Blood of Tyrants. It's
Brinkwood?
super, it's like castle punk is like the vibe. So it's a mix of
cool.
like typical horror and gothic horror and a bunch of other crap. It's really good.
All right.
Movie.
Caitlin.
I mentioned it earlier. My suggestion is Scream. Great horror movie. I'm a fan of all 4 of them and the show. I don't know.
Is the show good?
Okay, the first 2 seasons of the show are really good. I really enjoyed them. They canceled the show. They kind of did like a movie that like kind of wrapped some things up, but still left it with a cliffhanger. Then like 3 years later, they're like, we're gonna reboot the show, but just forget absolutely everything we did and just start it new. So there's a 3rd season that has nothing to do with the first 2 seasons, which is so dumb. I won't watch the 3rd season, but I did really enjoy the first 2 seasons.
Cool, because I've been watching Slasher, and I kind of got that feel of like the Scream vibe for it, and I've been enjoying it like in a super schlocky. So I was like curious about Scream. So awesome, I'm gonna check it out now.
Yeah, I don't know if you like it. I don't know like anyone else who watches it, but I loved it.
Well, now you'll know one.
I loved all 4 of them. The first was obviously the best, but they're all worth watching, I think, at least. Yeah, they're great. Also, I think I said James Rooker earlier. I meant Michael Rooker. I'm not dumb. I know who Michael Rooker is. I don't know if anyone heard me correct that.
Sounds pretty good on our end. I didn't catch it. Yeah, I didn't catch it.
Cool. I said it and I was like, what? There were too many names going through my head trying to think of that one guy. And then I said it. I was like, what did I say?
Yeah.
I lost, and I was like, I'm going to circle back around to that because, maybe no one caught it, but I felt I had to correct it. Anyway,
that's what matters.
And then the final recommendation suggestion is the show The Terror from AMC. You can find it on Hulu. Painfully overlooked. Incredible thriller with horror elements. Season 1, there are 2 seasons out. Season 1 is during an expedition. This is a real life expedition of a bunch of Englishmen to try to find the Northwest Pass for trade through the Arctic, and they get stuck in the Arctic. Second one is Japanese horror about this real Japanese community right when Pearl Harbor happens, and they are kind of haunted by this spirit. And I think that like Japanese and Korean horror is often overlooked. I don't know a lot about them, but the elements in that show are fantastic. I would highly recommend it.
So at this point,
oh sorry,
we better be sponsored by AMC at this point.
Yeah, true.
Because we've just brought up all of their shows.
We say the same about Shudder.
Shudder is also terribly overlooked as like a horror network, and it's like only $6 at most, like a month, just to say subscribe to it. But yeah, Korean and Japanese horror has some of the most influential and terrifying, like unique stories that remain. I mean,
The Wailing.
Yeah, Wailing. We reviewed The Wailing, The Host. Parasite was probably one of the biggest one that came out most recently. And
was amazing.
So good.
Yeah, it was
incredible film.
I get mad at people that are just like, oh, I can't do it. I don't like movies. Like, despite regardless, if you have like an actual disability that makes it hard to read subtitles, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
but if you're just somebody who's like, I don't want to put in the effort, then like,
you're missing out on some fantastic cinema, man. Like fantastic cinema. Missing out.
It's like my same frustration with people who like get mad, whose only criticism at Hereditary is that it's too slow. Like, okay, whatever, guy.
Yeah.
Rituals are slow.
True. Good point.
Is a weird fucking movie, though.
There isn't a Karen for rituals to make them go faster. Okay.
And I think with that just about does it. We're gonna link you guys in the description, so if you want to check out their podcast and see the episode that we're on, you can find it down below. Thank you very much for watching or listening. We put out our episodes of our podcast every Friday, and we've got some new content coming as well. As we mentioned, the Brinkwood tabletop and some other tabletop stuff. We've started streaming on Twitch. You can find those in the description as well.
Caitlin plays horror games.
She does.
So we're doing horror themes for spooky season. So
I also
get on that
play horror
shit.
games year round because I like horror games.
The bravest of us.
Same.
We put out new episodes of our podcast every Friday, wherever you get podcast, or on YouTube with a video element. Is there any final thoughts you guys have, Matthew or Cody?
Yeah.
Anything you want to include?
I guess my final thought is first, thank you again for bringing us on. Like, it's been
Yeah,
awesome
thank
talking
you
to
guys.
talking to all of you, really. We'd love to come back on again in the future. Anytime you'd like to have us, please let us know. You can like us and follow us over on Facebook and Twitter. Just search up Punk Rock Horror Podcast. Same thing on Instagram. We have a Patreon. We have merch available. We're also on the Slash and Cast network, so you can check us out there. And I guess just kind of like some nice advice is to all the listeners, especially the Rewind and Replay listeners, is take care of yourselves, invest in hobbies that bring you joy. It's an unpredicted time this year, and all we can say is just watch after yourselves and do things that make you happy, that are beneficial for you.
And it's spooky season, so wear a mask every day.
You have no reason to not wear a
time
mask.
to like just own spooky season. Be like, I'm gonna dress up every day. I'm gonna wear a new costume. Just wear
like
a mask.
Doctor Mask.
I was gonna say
Exactly.
Put an N95 filter in your spooky mask.
Exactly. Or like just figure it out. Also, like if you play that horror game, check out that horror movie. You never know if you actually don't like it until you actually try it, and then try it a second time just to make sure.
Yeah, really, like this year, if you love an indie director, if you love an indie show, anything independent that requires a lot of feedback and support from the fans, really make sure that you're paying attention to them and you're following along and doing what you can to support your creators that you love. Even if it's on YouTube, doesn't matter where, podcast, support them. Everybody's been hit hard with this pandemic, so really just liking and following means the world to a lot of content creators.
Be nice.
Yeah. Be nice.
Play some more Among Us when you're feeling mean.
No.
Oh yeah,
Instead
exactly.
of just being mean.
You're encouraged to turn on each other.
Yeah.
Great. And so once again, thank you everybody for watching, and we will catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye.